Hey y'all, welcome to or welcome back to our very bookish channel. And if you are new here, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Amanda. I run the channel with my friend Jen. You're gonna see her in just a few minutes because today's video is all about the upcoming releases in January and February that we are the most excited about and highly anticipating.
Hey guys, and welcome to most anticipated January, February 2026. I can't believe we're already into a new year. When I was looking for books for these 2 months, I can't believe how many books that are coming out that I want to read. And I really had to concentrate and try and whittle it down, and there's still a lot on my list. And you can even see there's a whole pile of books that I have physical arcs for. I have electronic arcs, and there are even ones that I don't have access to right now that I am really looking forward to. So let's go ahead and dive in and start with Rachel Hawkins' The Storm. I have read Rachel Hawkins, and one I really liked, which is The Heiress. We did a vlog, I think it was one of our secret vlogs, where we were picking something that was green for like a March St. Patty's Day theme. And that's the one that I end up reading her for the first time. And I did really enjoy that one. I thought it was really good. But then I read The Villa and I was not as enamored with that book. So this one, obviously I have a physical arc and I am interested in reading her again. So I do anticipate reading this. Now, it does come out January 6th, which I should have started with, that January 6th is the first date. I have 2 books I want to read on that date of release. For this one, it takes place in Alabama, and there is a hurricane that happened back in 1984, and there was a murder that happened. Present day, someone comes to town to investigate that murder, and another hurricane is happening. So there are a lot of secrets that are buried, a lot of things that come up during this hurricane, and with this writer coming to town to investigate the other murder. It feels like a really interesting premise. I like that premise. I haven't read anything necessarily like that, but I am looking forward to it. I'm hoping to get it done and get an arc review, but time is a ticking and I don't know if I'll get to it in time. I still plan on reading it even if it's after the release date.
All right, guys, so I am ready. I'm ready to go. I have a list here, and this isn't just in January, February, okay? But I have a list of books that I have been anticipating, okay? And that includes like this year's 2025 books and stuff. So I have a list. I have my computer right here. So we are ready to go. Now, I just want to mention very quickly, I'm going to be doing my most anticipated a little different this year. I'm really only going to discuss the books that I really, really want to read, because do you see this TBR jar? Take a guess. How many of these little papers, each a book, a title, and author is written. These are my most anticipated releases that I have had featured in my videos. And I just want to know, how many do you think? These are not read. These are books that I have not read. I've also counted these. Now, how many? Just real quick in the comments before I tell you the number. How many do you think are in here that I still need to read? If you guessed 106, you would be correct. 106. I read about 100 books a year. So this is an entire year's worth of books. And that's not any new releases that come out. That's not any like just mood reading that I want to do. These are just 106 books I have on my most anticipated that I need to read. And I want to read. I want to read these books. And it doesn't me no good to read like 3 a month, but then add 20 on with the most anticipated videos. So I'm really going to be selective, and I'm really going to narrow down the books that I really, really want to read. I'm also going to try to talk to Jen about how we can read these down. Maybe in every single monthly TBR video that we do, we can pull one of these at least if we want to. Or maybe we can do some shorts, maybe where we can pull one and read it and just film a little short. Each of us do it individually, because in case you guys don't know, Jen and I don't live close to each other, so we can't film together. So maybe we can just film some shorts, you know, where we pull this. I don't know. I got to talk to Jen about it. We've got to come up with something, because I have got to read these down and I've got to get these done. And I just don't know how to do it faster. So I am going to be putting less in the jar. I'm not going to be throwing on books that I'm iffy about. I'm going to be just focusing on the books that I really, really want to read. So that is going to be a little change that I'm doing. I don't know what Jen's doing. I don't know what her plans are for 2026 as far as the most anticipated goes. But if you guys have any ideas for any fun ways that we could read this, we're also on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So we can also do TikToks or Instagram Reels or whatever they are. Jen handles that, so I'm not quite sure how all of that works. But please give us some ideas. Let us know if you have any fun thoughts or ways that we can read these down, because it's really bothering me that there are so many in here that I still want to read. All right, so enough yapping, okay? Let's just get down to it. Let's get down to the reason you clicked on this video. Let's start going over the books. And my first book on January 6th is A War of Wyverns by S.F. Williamson. This is the sequel to A Language of Dragons. This is YA romantasy, and I just adored A Language of Dragons. I ate that book up. I'm remembering correctly, I think I read that whole book in like 2 days, and it's YA, so it wasn't difficult, but the writing is so beautiful. The story that's being told is just engaging. And of course, there's dragons in it, which I love. But Vivian is a young woman, and she is living in this world where there's a truce between dragons and humans, and she really wants to get into this college where she can learn more about dragons and get, you know, start a good career and move up. If I remember correctly, I think there's 3 different levels of society, and I think she's in the middle one. And unless she like moves up or gets into this college, her family is at risk at being put down on the lower level. And I think that means you don't have opportunities, you're poor, you're not treated as nicely, something like that along those lines, if I'm remembering correctly. But so she's really motivated to do well on these tests and go to the school. Well, her family gets arrested, and she is desperate to get them back. Her sister's missing, and she's really worried for their safety. And she winds up in this situation where she does something that breaks this truce that the humans have with dragons. And she ends up having to go to this college and work as a code breaker, where the humans are trying to decipher the language of the dragons. And the story just goes from there, because she finds some interesting information, let's just say. So that's a little bit recap of A Language of Dragons. And this book is just going to continue where the first book left off. And the first book left off on such a cliffhanger. There's a little bit of romance in there. I didn't find any kind of inappropriate material, because this is YA, but some YA books I feel like are way too spicy for YA, or way too gruesome and disturbing maybe for YA. But I really felt like this book was appropriate. I didn't think there was any spice in there. I didn't find any like disturbing themes or anything that would be too bad. So this is a book I feel like appropriate, and I just ate it up. I loved it as an adult, even though it's YA, and I don't read a lot of YA books anymore. So it was just really fun, and I do have the ARC I got from Edelweiss, and I really want to read this. It's just one of those things where I've had to push it back because of other more important to reads for the channel, for videos, catching up on things. Y'all know I've been busy, so I really want to get to this as soon as I can. I don't think I'm going to get it done and get it edited before January 6th, so I'm probably not going to do an ARC review on it. If I can, I will, but just know that I'm probably going to like this book, and I can't wait to read it.
The next one is from Red Tower. It is a romantasy, I would say, in that category, and it's Rings of Fate by Melissa de la Cruz. I haven't read her. I know she does a lot of like YA and YR books. The category in the back said romantic fantasy. And a favorite recent author, Abigail Owen, she actually has a quote on the front saying that this is the Princess Bride for the romantasy era. I haven't read The Princess Bride, but I have seen the movie several times. I love it. And I plan on reading The Princess Bride in December, hopefully. I have a very hopeful, large TBR in December. But this one is about a princess who doesn't really want to be considered a princess. She seems very strong-willed, and she has an encounter with a stranger that sets off a chain of events and into adventure, which is very a la Princess Bride. So this one is really interesting. I do want to read this one and hopefully get a ARC review, but January 6th, it's 2 books that I need to try and get to before then, and I don't think I have enough time, but we'll see. We shall see.
Another book on January 6th that is releasing I want to read is called Definitely Maybe Not a Detective by Sarah Fox. And this book was reminding me of Finlay Donovan. And we all know that I eat up the Finlay Donovan series. I have such a fun laugh out loud time when I read those books. So this book drew my interest. I don't have an ARC for it, but it's definitely on my radar. I'm just going to read real quickly the little blurb at the top. In this delightfully charming rom-com mystery, a woman becomes accidentally entangled in a murder investigation and with a handsome stranger when her fake detective agency is enlisted to solve a real homicide. So it sounds like one of those situations just like Finlay where it's a pretty good person, a pretty innocent person, but they just get tangled up in a very bad situation, and there's a lot of humor in it, and I just feel like a rom-com mystery would be really fun. So plus the cover is adorable, you guys. Honestly, the cover is what drew my attention, and it just struck me when I was scrolling through the releases for January and February, and I thought that sounds really fun. So the cover really drew me in, and when I read the description of the book, I thought this was reminding me of Finlay Donovan, and I just really in the mood to get back into that kind of book. So I am highly anticipating this coming out. Hopefully it's as good as Finlay Donovan. We'll see, because those are big shoes in my mind to fill.
We are on to January 13th, and the next one I don't have access to, and I don't have a physical ARC, and I was very close to potentially not putting it on the list because it is Colleen Hoover. She hasn't had one out for a while. I've only read one Colleen Hoover, and that's Verity. That's pretty much her only thriller. There was another one by her that someone told me was very similar to Verity, and I'm forgetting the title right now, and I wanted to read that one too, but I hadn't gotten to it yet. This one is called Woman Down, and what's funny about that is when I read the premise for this book, I feel that it very much might be her writing from her perspective of what's going on in her life in the past couple years. If you guys haven't seen in the media what's going on with Colleen Hoover, she had a couple of her books made into movie, and a lot of drama and controversy has followed her from it. Not just from the movies, though. I think there was a further conversation around how she's portraying domestic violence in her books. And I think it got a lot more press just because it was made into a movie, and then Blake Lively ended up into all these lawsuits. For the life of me, I can't think of the name of that book, even though it's her most well-known book, but I will put it on the screen just so you guys see which book I'm talking about. But it was made into a movie. I don't know if it was considered a success, unless you guys don't go on social media at all or follow anything in the news. I mean, it's been all over the place. And Blake Lively has been in a lawsuit with Justin Baldoni about how she felt she was treated on the set. He's saying that she really tried to take over his movie that he was trying to direct, and it's been a huge thing. But I think the bigger controversy has been Colleen Hoover pretty much making light of domestic violence and treating it as something to... I don't know exactly what the dialogue was around this, but not treating it with the reverence that it needs to be treated. So in this book, it is about an author who pretty much is down on her luck. She got bullied online in terms of social media, and she is in need of finishing a new novel because she doesn't have any money. And I don't know how much of that part is really true with Colleen Hoover, but she ends up going and secluding herself to try and write a book and get it published because she needs to turn her luck around, basically. And she ends up being visited by a detective for some reason. And I don't know if it says why she's getting visited, but I do feel it ends up, and maybe this is where it's not following her own story, that it might be an unreliable narrator. And I don't know if this detective really exists in real life, but she starts to write about this supposed real detective into her story. And then reality starts to blur for her of what's truth and what's not. So it's an interesting premise. I don't know how much I want to read it. I don't know how it's going to be received. When I think a lot of people have, I hate using the word canceled, but a lot of people have tried canceling Colleen Hoover, and she has lost a lot of her popularity. I don't know if it's even going to be good. Verity was really kind of crazy. It reminded me a lot of how I first reacted to The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, where the storyline just seems out there and just kind of crazy to feel like it would ever be true. But every time I say that, I've said this a million times on this channel, you end up reading real life headlines and then you're like, oh, some of these things do happen. So long and short of it is, I do have it on my list. I am curious to check it out. It comes out January 13th. And if I do end up picking it up, I'm sure I'll talk about it on our channel.
The next book on my list is being released January 13th. As traditionally published. It was released before as indie published, so this isn't like just a brand new book per se, because it was published indie version like a while ago, but the traditionally published version of this book is coming out on January 13th, and I haven't read it yet. I was able to get it on Edelweiss, and it's called The Poisoner by Ivy Ophelia. This is a gothic vampire romance where I think the woman in this book is a botanist, and she is like an assassin trying to kill vampires, and she usually poisons them, but she gets this job, or she has this idea, or however she comes across her targets, and she needs to kill a vampire. So she goes to get close to him, and I think she kind of falls in love. So I just think that sounded really fun. I've heard some good things about it. I was reading some reviews online and it seemed a little mixed, but I follow Emmy here on YouTube, and she really liked this book, so I'm gonna give it a try. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to read it, and hopefully I'll like it, and I'll buy the traditionally published version coming out, because I think it's gonna have sprayed edges and be a really pretty book. So I'm gonna try to read it before then and see if I like it enough to buy it, but we will see, because y'all know I'm behind and have a lot. I'm behind with reading. Y'all know there's a lot. I showed you my TBR jar. Okay, 106 books. I have a lot of reading to do, so we'll see if I can get to this one. I will try.
The next is also on January 13th, and it's Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Elston. I have wanted to read the first book she wrote, which is called First Lie Wins. A friend of mine had read it, and she thought it was a pretty decent book and suggested that I read it, but I just haven't gotten to it. I actually think I have it bought on Audible, and I just haven't listened to it yet. It was one of those ones that just keep getting pushed off. And the short description for this one is a tense, feverish thriller about two women's lives that are forever intertwined when a murder threatens to expose them both. I just feel like she's a typical thriller writer. I do intend to read her. If not The First Lie Wins, maybe this one, maybe both, but it's definitely on my list to check out. The next one I found when I was researching just all of the releases that were coming out. I almost just went through my Goodreads, and I also keep a list running on Edelweiss just because there was so many already, but I ended up Googling just to see if there were any ones that I had missed. And I'm glad I did that, because this one I had not heard of, and I am deeply interested in it, and I had not seen it anywhere else. And it's called Detour. It has two authors, Jeff Rake and Rob Hart. And I believe it's Jeff Rake I don't think both of them is the creator of Manifest. It's a TV show that ended up getting canceled. I want to say it was like on NBC or something. Ended up getting canceled, and Netflix picked it up to do the final season so that the story could be summed up and finished, because the fans spoke so loudly to get this series back on air. And I was glad that they did, because I really liked that series. I feel like it was one of those, anytime something seems mind-bending where you don't know what's going on. Another series like that is called Lost, from a few years back, and I feel like it was in the same vein. This description for Detours says, a space shuttle flight crew discovers that the Earth they've returned to is not the home they've left behind, and they call it an emotional, mind-bending thriller. A quote says, if The Martian, which is a book, I haven't read it, but I believe it's by Andy Weir, a thriller that messes with your head as you scramble to put pieces together of what's really going on. And that quote is by Steve Netter, who I think he has a website, but it said Best Thriller Books was next to his name. It just, everything in the description was speaking to me, and I do have access on Edelweiss for it, which I am really happy about. So I do plan on reading this. I'm hoping it lives up to the expectations that I have for it, because it sounds really good. Another one I found when I was just looking to see if I have gotten everything onto my Goodreads and Edelweiss list, I found just by looking on Google. This one is called Lost Lambs by Madeline Cash. It also comes out January 13th. It's a debut novel rippling with humor, warmth, and style, a new vision of the charms and pitfalls of family dysfunction. The Flynn family and how they are coming undone, a family saga for the 21st century, all held together with crazy glue, which I thought was an interesting description. It is fiction, and I often fall back on wanting to read fiction a lot. Fiction and thrillers are always my go-tos. It looked really interesting. I feel like this is something that is not just funny, but also like heartfelt. So I definitely put that on my list too. The next one is also January 13th, and it's by an author that I have read a previous thriller by. This new one is called It Should Have Been You, Andrea Mara. I had read the Someone in the Attic, and I did a ARC review for that. I really enjoyed it. So I definitely wanted to return to a new book by her. It is a domestic thriller again, and does sound very similar to Someone in the Attic. And it's about neighbors having secrets and how far will they go to keep them. There is a quote by the thriller writer Catherine Ryan Howard that says, a simple, ordinary mistake explodes into a suburban nightmare. This hugely compelling, one-sitting read packed full of thrilling moments and genuinely surprising twists. Andrea Mara is at the top of her game. I thought that was a great quote, but I've also said on this channel that those quotes don't always, and those blurbs on the front of books don't always ring true for me after I have read a book. And we all have different opinions when we go into a book. And I think sometimes friends are asked to do those blurbs on the book, and of course they're going to talk it up because they're their friends. And so I take it with a grain of salt, but I am interested in picking it up and trying again, because I did really enjoy her first one.
This next book, again, I'm just going to talk about briefly because Jen's already read it and she has filmed an ARC review on it, and she so kindly surprised me and mailed me her copy. And this is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. You guys, I read Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I got an ARC of that book, and oh, I ate it up. I loved that book so much. She has this very dark, atmospheric writing, and the setting in Beautiful Ugly was very secluded. You're on an island, and there's very few people, and I just loved it. I ate it up. So I was super excited when Jen sent me this, and I'm going to let her tell you about this story because, like I said, she's read it, and I am putting an ARC review up, at least of hers, but I am hoping to read this and also add to the ARC review my opinion. And this is my next physical read. I have my bookmark in it, so it's primed. It's primed to be read. This is how you know it's my next read, because I prime the book with a bookmark. Because otherwise I start reading the book and then scramble to find anything to just slip in the book to save my spot. But I'm really excited to read this, and I'm really, really prioritizing this book so I can put in my opinion of the arc and add it to Jen's, and we can post it before it comes out on January 20th.
The next is a shout out to, I had done an arc review, recorded an arc review that Amanda is going to be editing and putting out. I had sent her my physical copy because I thought she would want to read it. I don't know if she does intend to read it. I know there's a lot on her list and a lot happening in her life, but it's the new Alice Feeney. It's My Husband's Wife, coming out January 20th. I loved it. I feel like, and I said in my arc review, I feel like she has read some Freida McFadden recently, because I feel like she started to veer very much into that lane of twists and kind of crazy twists. I loved it. I ate up that book, and my arc review I'm sure will be out at some point. I don't know if before or after this. If it's coming out before this, Amanda, I'm sure we'll put the link in our description. The next one is another author that I have read their first book, and I got their physical arc, and it's The Fair Weather Friend by Jessie Garcia. I had read her first one called The Business Trip. I also did an arc review for that one and really enjoyed it. Again, I feel like the premise sounds very similar to her first book, and it just changes some of the details because it's about someone disappearing again. This time it's a meteorologist, and she's known as the Fairweather Friend, and she ends up going missing. You have to figure out, I guess, what happened with her. The Business Trip had a really like Freida McFadden-esque twist in terms of what you find out with that disappearance. So have a feeling this one will be the same way. I hope it's not exactly the same. I know sometimes a lot of these thrillers are kind of formulaic, but obviously I'm falling for it because I keep going back to them. But I am really interested in reading this one, and I will do my best to do an arc review for this. The next one I have a physical arc. It is also January 20th, and it's by Ashley Windstead, The Future Saints. This one was giving very much Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes with Daisy Jones and the Six. I think it's just a different time period, but the Future Saints are a band. And this one is about the band and how they are at the bottom in terms of their career. Their manager had died, and someone comes along and decides to help them and manage them. And it's what their trajectory is from that. So it's a little different from Ashley Winstead. She has typically written thrillers, and that's what me and Amanda have done. We did a couple arc reviews for Ashley Winstead, and This Book Will Bury Me was the last one that we did, and I did really enjoy that one. I think there was a little too much similarity to a real life case that was making me hesitate on that book, but Ashley Winstead will always be near and dear to me and Amanda's hearts for the fact that we started our channel. Our very first vlog was on The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. I don't know if Amanda has access to it or if we should do this together. It is a departure from thriller, as I said, so I'm not sure Amanda would want to read this, but it is an author we enjoy her writing, so she might want to, and I will touch base with her to see if she wants to. But I do plan on reading this, especially since I did love Taylor Jenkins Reid and I did love Daisy Jones. I don't know how much I want to read that story all over again with a different band, but I do intend on reading this and hopefully get an arc review out for you guys. The next one is also January 20th, and it was one of the ones I was on the fence of including because I get worried sometimes the ones that I get drawn to might be a little too sentimental or schmaltzy, and those kind of books don't necessarily appeal to me. It's called The Elsewhere Express by Samantha Sotto Yambo. How it was described is step aboard the train that can take you to your life's purpose in this cozy fantasy, appearing only to those whose lives are adrift, a magical train carrying very rare and special cargo, a sense of purpose, peace, and belonging. The cover, as you'll see on the screen, was one of the things that drew me because it's gorgeous and it has special edges and all of that. But I try not to fall into that trap of, oh, it's a pretty book, so therefore I need to buy it and read it, because those aren't always books that end up being good. We'll see. It is on my list, and that means even if I don't read it, it'll end up in the TBR jar. And if you guys have seen our TBR jar reads, sometimes I feel I don't always get the best luck when I'm doing that, and it's made me consider what I'm putting on this list because it's going in that jar. So that's why I did take some titles off of this time, which is crazy because I still have 30 that I'm going to go over today. I think it's 29 or 30, and I took ones off. So obviously, I feel like sometimes I might go overboard, and maybe I need to take more off this list, but it sounded interesting, so I kept it on. The next one is another thriller. I know that's shocking, but it's January 20th. It's called The Room in the Attic by T.M. Logan. I don't have access as of this minute, but this is about Adam and Jess move into a new house, a rambling Victorian villa with their 3 children. Before long, Adam discovers a door hidden behind a fitted wardrobe, concealing a secret room. They find like weird stuff in there too. It's not like, you know, a torture dungeon or anything like that. They just find like someone's missing belongings, basically, like a cell phone that's a little outdated and that kind of thing. So it's almost giving you the feeling that maybe someone had been hidden there or kidnapped and like placed there, but obviously they don't find a body or anything like that. So Adam soon sets in motion a series of events that will place his family in danger. I always like those types of books, especially about older houses and finding like hidden rooms and what will end up happening with that. So I have a feeling there was probably someone kidnapped or murdered there, and he ends up trying to investigate because he gets so interested. And obviously if you're investigating that and someone was murdered, the murderer is probably not going to want you investigating, and that's how he's placing his family in danger. That's my guess, but we shall see. Another one on January 20th, it's called Such a Clever Girl by Darby Kane. I did read another book by Darby Kane back in 2024 called The Wife Knew, and I did enjoy that book, so I thought this might be a good one to put on my list. It is considered a gripping domestic thriller. Again, shocking. There's another thriller. A family goes missing and a long-buried family mystery resurfaces. And 15 years after that family had gone missing, there's someone named Aubrey, and the description doesn't explain who Aubrey is. So I don't know if she was part of that family, if she just knew that family, had someone been affected by that disappearance. But she returns to town with questions swirling if she was affected by that night, and theories swirl as to what really happened. And I feel like I saw a Dateline or something like that about a similar story where a family just goes missing and no one knows what happened. I feel like it's I haven't read a book that I can remember anyway about that. And I think that's an interesting premise. So I am very interested in reading that. I don't have a physical or electronic ARC as of yet, but I am looking forward to picking that up.
On January 27th, there is a book called Sister Svangerd and the Not Quite Dead. I don't have an ARC of this, but I did see it listed on Edelweiss, and it seemed very intriguing. It is like dark fantasy, and you're following a sister of a church, and she is sent on a mission to permanently shut up a princess. Let's just say that. And she's working with the priest of the church, and she decides that the best way to do this is to attend this big highbrow once in a century council meeting. And this meeting is held by lots of the esteemed religious leaders. They are thought to be just very holy and very wholesome and very good. So she gets to this meeting and she finds out that it's actually not what it appears. Surprise, surprise. But they're actually very evil people, and some of the people that are in this meeting she thought was dead. So she thought that they were not here anymore, but then they show up at this meeting. So it sounds very intriguing. It sounds fun. It seems like this could go a lot of different ways. And I'm just very curious about this book. And it's one of those I thought about not including because, like I said, I'm trying to be very strict and diehard about the books that I put on here, but I just had to because I really want to read it and I think it sounds good. It could go either way though for me because I've never heard of this author before, and did I tell you the author? The author is KJ Parker. So yeah, sorry about that if I didn't tell you in the beginning. The author's KJ Parker, but this just sounded so fun I had to put it on here.
The next one, based on the cover, I thought could be fiction, but it's saying it's a suspenseful debut. So it might be considered like a literary thriller maybe, but it's called Paper Cut by Rachel Taff. It comes out January 27th. And it's described as compelling suspense debut about a woman infamous for escaping a cult as a teenager whose future is threatened when dangerous secrets come back to haunt her. I do feel like I have read something similar, though it's not coming to mind exactly what that book was. I was really drawn in for some reason into the cover for this. Sometimes it just happens. I know Amanda talks about that, but something about it just made me drawn to, ooh, what's that? And then the description made me want to read it. So it's on my list.
The last book that I have for January is called We Who Have No Gods by Liza Anderson. And I'm going to have to just read the synopsis to you guys for this one because I've read it over a couple of times and I don't feel like I can just summarize it adequately. In a world of witches, a human woman must hunt or be hunted in this explosive debut novel filled with dangerous rivals, guarded secrets, and simmering chemistry. Vic Wood has her priorities, scrape by on her restaurant wages, take care of her younger brother Henry, and forget their mother ever existed. But Vic's careful life crumbles when she discovers that their long-missing mother belonged to the Archeon Order, a secret society of witches tasked with keeping the dead at bay. What's worse, Henry inherited their mother's magical abilities, while Vic did not, and he has been chosen as the Order's newest recruit. Determined to keep him safe, Vic accompanies Henry to the isolated woods in upstate New York that host the sprawling and eerie Avalon Castle. When she joins the academy, despite lacking powers of her own, she risks not only the Order's wrath, but also her brother's. And then there is the imposing, ruthless, and frustrating Zan, the head of Sentinel in charge of protecting Avalon. He makes no secret of wanting Vic to leave. She makes both enemies and allies in this mysterious realm. Vic becomes caught between the dark forces at play, with her mother at the heart of it all. What's stranger is that Vic is beginning to be affected by the Academy and Zan in ways that she cannot quite understand. But with war between witches threatening the fabric of reality, Vic must decide whether to risk her heart and life for a world where power is everything. So there's a lot of things in that are appealing to me. I've talked about most of these tropes a lot and why I like them. So that just looks real fun and I am excited to get to this one.
A shout out on January 27th, Dear Debbie by Freida McFadden does come out. We do have an ARC review on that. We were very lucky to read it ahead of time as an electronic ARC. It is at the top next to the X for me in terms of how much I enjoyed it and loved it. If you have not read Freida McFadden, it would be a good introduction to her. But obviously she has a lot of books that you can pick up. The Housemaid is another one. The movie's coming out this month that I think you should pick up. But you can watch our ARC review if you wanted to know more about Dear Debbie. But I highly, highly, highly recommend it, especially if you love thrillers.
So I may have told you guys a little lie, actually a big lie. If I said that We Who Have No Gods is the last book in January, that was a massive lie. I found some more books on my list that are coming out on January 27th. So the first one is, the first additional one is The Swamps by Seraphina Novaglass. Seraphina Novaglass is an author that I've read before and enjoyed. And I'm pretty sure Jen has also read and reviewed one of her ARCs as well, if I'm remembering correctly, and she enjoyed it. So it's kind of an author when I have certain thriller authors authors that when I see they have releases, I automatically put them on my radar because I just, the thriller authors that you like, okay? And she's one of them for me. And this book is called The Swamps, and it's about two social media influencers who have a ghost hunting YouTube channel, and they decide to go into the Louisiana swamps to try to figure out what's going on with a missing woman case. So there's the two of them that go together, and then they have two assistants that go with them, and it just says that the investigation takes a deadly turn. So that sounded fun. Y'all know I love my thrillers in secluded settings. I think that just adds to the creepy vibes. And so I just thought this book sounded really good, and it is definitely in my most anticipated.
The next one comes out January 27th, and it's by an author I have read several times now, and she actually has two coming out this coming year. One is in January. The other one I want to say is like late spring, early summer. This one is called The Swamps, and it's by Seraphina Nova Glass. I've read 3 books by her, On a Quiet Street and Vacancy in Room 10, which I really loved those two. And then Nothing Ever Happens Here was a little softer. I didn't love it as much as her other books, but this one sounded interesting because I am a fan of the show Supernatural. And when I read the description, I felt like it very much was in that realm. So this is about Macy and Ethan, and they built their careers chasing the unknown, turning their YouTube channel Ghost Patrol into a viral sensation as they investigated the paranormal. They venture into the murky depths of the Louisiana Bayou, and the latest case takes a lethal turn. What starts as a routine hunt quickly spirals into something far more sinister. It did sound really interesting, and I have liked some of her books in the past, so it's on my list. And I do have access on Edelweiss for that one too.
The next book on January 27th is The Wolf and the Crown of Blood by Elizabeth May. Let me check. Yes, Elizabeth May. Sorry, sometimes it's hard for me to remember the full title and author for whatever reason. There's a bunch of information up here, so excuse me. But The Wolf and the Crown of Blood by Elizabeth May. This book is the first of a series. It's been described as a dark romantasy. You're following a young princess who is sort of the, I don't want to say whipping girl, but her role in this realm that she rules with her family is that she is killed and her blood is given up to the gods to appease them, and then she is incarnated, I guess. Like, she is revived, and then later on when the gods get mad and they need royal blood, they kill her and revive her again. So that's kind of her role in this world. And one day the gods get so pissed off that that sacrifice is not enough, and they send this wolf, they call him the wolf, down, and he is a royal assassin where he can actually permanently assassinate these people. So again, it's another theme in the vein of the hunted and the hunter fall in love, and I don't know, I'm here for it. I just think that is like a really fun trope, and I'm not tired of it. The last book for January 27th, and I promise this is the last one, is called Silver and Blood by Jessie Mihalik. And this is another romantasy. I'm just going to read you the little blurb at the top because this drew me in, and this is all I read. And does have a gorgeous cover, but this is all that I have read and just wanted to put this on my list. On a deadly mission to kill the mythical beast that has been haunting her woods, a desperate mage finds her fate intertwined with the handsome, powerful man who saves her in this dark and sexy romantasy perfect for readers of Jennifer L. Armentrout, Callie Hart, and Holly Black. All 3 of those authors I have read and really enjoyed their books, so that kind of got me. I know you can't always trust these blurbs, and when you make comparisons to big authors, it doesn't always hold up, but I don't know. I just have a feeling about this one. It's just a vibe. Maybe I'm wrong, but this looks like it could be a really good book. And even though I said I was going to be cutthroat, I had to just put it on this list.
We are into February, and we start off with an author that I have read before. And the book is called Greedy by Callie Kazumi. I've read another book by her called Claire Darling, which I really loved. It's a thriller, of course. This one is another dark thriller set in remote Japan. A desperate gambling addict masquerades as a private chef to a reclusive billionaire with deadly taste. A suspenseful poison pen note to classism. It sounded, I don't know, different. I don't know how much I'm gonna like that premise, but sometimes you need different things to spice things up. I have a feeling this one's gonna end up in the TBR jar, and I'm gonna pull it at some future point, and hopefully it doesn't go awry.
So in February, my first book I want to talk about coming out on February 3rd is The Wolf Hour by Joe Nesbo. And Joe Nesbo is one of those authors that no matter what book he comes out with, it's automatically on my radar. I automatically want to read it. He writes very dark, gritty, disturbing detective novels. And I don't know how to describe the atmosphere in his books. If you've ever read them, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's just a very heavy, dark atmosphere, and mostly they're detective type novels where, like, his most famous books are the Harry Holy series, where he's following a detective, Harry Holy, who solves all these very gruesome murders. So that's kind of the vibe of the book. And the settings are very grim. I just feel that the vibes of the book are very grim. So they always just pull me in. Like, I always just get in this mood where I want to curl up, like especially in the wintertime when it's cold outside, and I just want to curl up and read one of these like gritty, dark, detective, disturbing murder books. And so this one is no exception. It is on my radar. What I know about it is in 2016 there was a murder and they had a suspect, and I'm not sure what happens with that suspect, but it just seemed like a very likely suspect. He was a gang member, he had been in trouble with the law before, etc., etc. And then you're jumping to 2022. You mean there are details about the crime that come up later that kind of shake up what was thought was the solution back in 2016. So that all being said, it's on my radar. I really want to read it. His books are just so, like I said, I just get in a mood to read his books. They're very unique, very different style of writing.
Again, on February 3rd, I have a physical art called The X's by Leodora Darlington. I'm on the fence. This was just sent to me. I don't remember requesting it, but it's very possible. Shelf Awareness has those ads that you can respond to if you're interested, and sometimes it looks really interesting, but it's about a woman who has a lot of exes that are dead, and so there's question marks as to what's going on with them. Will her latest marriage survive, depending on, what is she a murderer? What's going on? So I feel like that's a very common thriller trope of, what's going on with someone's previous partners and not being, alive or not. I feel like usually it's the men and the wives are dead. A little bit of a twist that it's a woman and all her exes are dead. Interesting. I don't know. I have a feeling this is another one that's going to end up in the TBR jar and I end up reading it at some point, but who knows? I may end up picking it up at some point, reading it and doing an ARC review. You never know. I feel like I'm very much a mood reader and that could happen, but it's on the list. Next, on February 3rd, we go back to fiction, and this one's called Clutch by Emily Nemens. It follows a group of 5 women who are friends for 20 years as they go through the biggest challenges of their lives. 5 friends from undergrad college and made it through so much in their lives and stay close despite distance because they live all over the country. And I feel like that's very true for me and my college friends because we're spread out all over the country. Big, beautiful, and deeply absorbing novel that asks how much space and heart we can give to our friends and our families and to what space we can save for ourselves. It just sounded interesting, and I feel like sometimes I just really need fiction and like the drama fiction, and that's why it ended up on my list. The next one is a physical ARC, and I was lucky to get a new one by Mary Kubica. It's Not Her. I have yet to read her. I have heard about her, and it feels like a crime not to have read her when I've read so many thrillers. Local Woman Missing, I think, is her most well-known one, and I do own it. I just haven't read it yet. And this one had so many of some of my favorite authors on the back talking about how much they enjoyed this latest one. Geneva Rose said a gripping thrill ride. Sherry Lapena said I couldn't put it down. Some other well-known authors like Megan Miranda, Cubica is an absolute master. Twisting, Chilling, Heartbreaking by Chris Whitaker. Wickedly Smart and Incredibly Twisted by Ashley Elston. So I feel like this one is going to be one of those twisty thrillers, and I really want to read this one. And it does come out on February 3rd. I have enough time, so most likely I'll be doing an ARC review, and this will be my introduction to Mary Kubica's. So keep an eye out. I will be doing an ARC review for this one.
Coming out February 10th is a book I have an ARC for, and it's called Wicked Onyx by Debbie Cassidy. And this is a a very vicious school setting. I'm just gonna read you guys the description because again, I'm feeling like I can't do the book justice. In a ruthless magical academy where she's cursed and powerless, the last Onyx must unravel dark family secrets and navigate dangerous alliances to reclaim her legacy and make those who betrayed her pay. You don't graduate Nightbridge Academy, you survive it. Born into a sorcerer bloodline, cursed and cut off from my power, I was accustomed to being an outcast. For generations, my bloodline carried the weight of a crime committed by our ancestor. But my mother's death changed everything. She left a clue that could prove our innocence, an ancient text hidden deep beneath Knightsbridge Academy. The academy is a fortress of power, housing the most dangerous enchanters and sorcerers, conscripted to keep horrors and echoes at bay. As the last surviving Onyx, I'm owed a mission. The plan is simple. Find the book and expose the Imperium as the liars they are. But I didn't plan for the whispers that haunt my dreams or the complication of feelings I shouldn't be capable of, stirred by two men bound to the very institution I've come to destroy. One sees too much yet says too little. The other is steady, protective, and always in my corner. I can't have either. Yet when I'm in their presence, my curse begins to crack. If they discover my true purpose, I'm dead. But some truths are worth dying for. The Imperium cursed my bloodline, stripped us of our magic, branded us as traitors, and now I will make them pay. So it looks like a love triangle, which I'm not always a fan of. In fact, a lot of times when I find out books are love triangles, I kind of deter away from them. But sometimes they work, sometimes they're fun. Like Furybound was a love triangle that I enjoyed. I really liked that book, and there was a love triangle in that one. So I'm trying to be more open-minded and give more books a try. Plus the premise of this book just really caught me. Y'all know I love a ruthless competitive trial or academy type school setting. So I say that in every video, so you guys know that about me.
The next is another thriller. Shocking. It's February 10th. Ours is A Tale of Murder by Nora Murphy. I have not read Nora Murphy. I'm pretty sure Amanda read Thriller by her a couple years ago. And there's a quote by author Carter Wilson that says, "Three seemingly disparate stories, all captivating in their own right, pull the reader toward a shocking collision, made all the more satisfying by Murphy's brilliant twist. The stakes are high, the casualties tragic, the losses profound." So, sounds like a typical thriller and sounds like something that I would probably enjoy. So I have it on the list.
February 17th, I have another academia school setting type of book, and that's Half City by Kate Golden. And Kate Golden is an author I've never read before, but she has written popular romantasy series in the past. I think it's Peridot of something is one of the books. Hold on, let me just check. Will confirm. Yes, she wrote the trilogy that's A Dawn of Onyx, A Promise of Peridot, and A Reign of Rose. So those are very popular books that I have seen before and have drawn my interest a little bit. I have not read them though, but she is coming out with a brand new series called Half City. So there are a lot of tropes in this book that I have talked about and liked. And one is you're following Viv. She's a demon hunter. Okay, which that's fun. But she has always had to work alone. Her family kind of sees her as different from them. They kind of keep her at a distance. And so she has hunted these demons alone. She's not happy with her life. She doesn't like her boyfriend. She lives in an apartment that is way overpriced, working a job that pays under what she needs. So she's kind of struggling. And one night when she's out hunting her demons, she runs across a demon that lets her know about the Harker Academy. And in this academy, you can learn to hone all of your abilities. There's other people like her. And so it sounds too good to be true. She decides to go to this academy and then starts unraveling some secrets. And she uncovers some mysteries around her father's death. Apparently her father has passed away or been killed, and she starts unraveling some information about that. And it seems like in this book she kind of has to toe a line between graduating the academy or getting through her first year and not falling for this demon that she's supposed to be killing, and also solving this mystery around her father's death. So that all, lots of tropes in there that are right up my alley that I like. It is urban fantasy, which isn't my favorite subgenre of fantasy, but again, if it's one of those things where I don't always like it, but if it's done good, it's done good. Okay, it's done right, and it can be a very good book. So very excited. Also, obviously I have the arc, so hopefully I can get to this because this book's very intriguing to me and I'm excited to get into it.
The next, me and Amanda should definitely do an arc review, a joint arc review. I'm pretty sure she has access to it because we talked about it, but it's Adrift by Will Dean, comes out February 17th. She and I have done 2 arc review or vlogs for the last one, which I think that was our first one that we did. And that one was just crazy. I love that one. The Chamber, which I wasn't as crazy about. So again, I have one that I really loved by him and one maybe not so much. But I think Amanda especially really loves him and has read other books by him beyond those. This one is a high tension thriller about a family's descent into darkness. Peggy and Drew are both aspiring writers, and they move to an isolated canal with their teenage son. Peggy finds success as a writer, and Drew's frustration at his wife's success moves his family further and further from civilization as a result, where he's just can't grasp that his own career is dying and she's finding success. Things escalate to a catastrophic series of events. Sounds really interesting, and again, I feel like a lot of his are about getting his main characters like isolated and almost like locked room thriller type situations. And I feel that's probably why Amanda loves them, because she does like locked room thrillers. But I feel like she and I should do it before February 17th and post it for you guys so you know what our thoughts are for it.
February 17th is the release of a book that I cannot believe I haven't read yet. I just can't believe it. I've had this book for so long. It's Adrift by Will Dean. Will Dean's an author I've read and loved before, and this book sounds so good to me. You're following 2 authors, a husband and wife pair. They are authors. They don't write together. They write their own books separately. And the wife has some success in her writing. Her writing blows up. She has a really big fan base, and the husband gets a little bit jealous, and they decided to go on this boat, just like stay on this riverboat for a while to escape all the attention and to maybe like seclude themselves and write and work on their stories. And I think the husband might try to get a little crazy and let his jealousy overtake him, and his wife is trapped on this boat with him. And there's so many things about this that I like. I love a good jealousy arc, because especially in thrillers, because there's so much tension built up, because the character, like the wife in this book, she's not going to know right away that her husband is trying to hurt her or he's jealous of her. Obviously, he hides that from her. So it is one of those scenarios where as a reader, you know what's going on and you want to just scream at the character like, you know, look behind you. It's your husband, idiot. So I'm really excited for this one. This feels like a book that Will Dean is gonna just knock out of the park, and I can't wait to read it. And it is literally a crime I haven't read it yet.
I go back to fiction for February 17th, So Old, So Young by Grant Ginder, or Ginder. I hope I didn't mispronounce his name. It's a story of romantic love, professional jealousy, misplaced longing, and the gift of lifelong friendship. 5 parties over the course of 2 decades bring 6 college friends together, showing the way we can run from and cling to our friends in love, life, and death. Again, another like dramatic literary type book that I tend to get drawn to, so it made the next one on February 17th is an author that I feel I haven't always loved their books, but the last one I read by her, I think it's a her, really stuck with me, and it's When I Kill You by B.A. Paris. The one that stuck with me is called The Guest, and we did it for a TBR jar vlog, and I wasn't enjoying it for a while because I remember it felt really slow. It's definitely a slow burn, tension type thriller. What you end up finding out has stuck with me. It's one of those books that you don't realize how much affected you until you're past it. And so I definitely felt like returning to a new one by them. And this one is an unsettling new suspense novel. Nell Masters is certain someone is following her, and she has a reason to be paranoid because she has a secret she's been hiding from everyone. So I have a feeling she may have murdered someone in her past, and she now is afraid she's been found out and someone's following her or something to that extent. But it was a huge twist in The Guest, and I feel maybe that might happen again. So I am interested in reading it, and I do have access on Edelweiss. So I may be reading that and doing an ARC review. There's a new one by Claire Douglas on February 17th, and I have really wanted to read her because she does a lot of thrillers, and I just haven't done it yet. And this one's called The New Neighbors. Lena is helping her son record sounds for his media class with a boom mic when she overhears the neighbor's conversation, and it's like a 60-year-old couple, I should mention, and she thinks she heard them planning a crime. No one believes her since they are an upstanding couple and they're older, and thinks she misheard. Lena can't stop thinking about it and sure she heard correctly and wants to prevent something awful from happening. So I think it's one of those where she is going to keep trying to find out what's really going on with that couple, and probably ending up knowing that she was right and they were trying to plan something, and then I'm sure she ends up in a bad situation because of it. But sounded interesting, and I definitely want to read Claire Douglas at some point.
On February 24th, shout out to The Wicked and the Damned by Rebecca Robinson. This is the second book of the Dark Inheritance trilogy. The first book was The Serpent and the Wolf. I ate these books up. I've already read this. I have filmed an ARC review for it. I am going to be editing and posting it before its release date. So I'm very excited to share this with you guys. In my opinion, this is really an underrated series. I loved The Serpent and the Wolf. I just ate that book up. I just couldn't get enough of it. And the second book in the series also does not disappoint. So if you want more information, then stay tuned for my ARC review. Keep your eyes posted. You can hit that notification bell once you've subscribed so that you'll be notified when our videos post and you can look for it. But fantastic series, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, fantastic series. And I think it's very underrated, and I think more people need to read this.
Another author that I have read this past year, it was either last year or this past year, and it's Kate Alice Marshall. She has a new one called The Girls Before. The one I had read was called A Killing Cold. This one comes out February 24th, and it's about a search and rescue expert, a kidnapped woman, and the lost girls who haunt them both. I really enjoyed Killing Cold, so I was thinking definitely want to read her again, and she made sense. The next one's also on February 24th. It's called Finders Keepers by Natalie Borelli. When Rose discovers her troubled past splashed across a best-selling book, she knows her carefully curated and constructed life is about to unravel. The author claims it's fiction, but Rose knows better. I guess it's too detailed and seems too close to what has happened with her. Rose ingratiates herself into the author's life to find out the truth, and obviously craziness ensues. So that one seemed really interesting. I want to read that one.
Another book that I want to mention that's coming out on February 24th is Nowhere Burning by Catriona Ward. Jen is going to talk about this book. Jen is a huge Catriona Ward fan, so and she's read the book or is currently reading it, and I want to let her talk about it because she loves Catriona Ward. She's loved all of Catriona Ward's books. I've read a few of them. I like them. Not as huge a fan as Jen, but I can't wait to read this one, and it is on my radar, so I'm throwing it up here, but I think Jen will do a better job of describing the book to y'all since she's reading it or has it read by now.
And last but certainly not least, Catriona Ward has a new one coming out on February 24th. I am very, very lucky to have an ARC copy of it, and I am almost halfway through it. It's called Nowhere Burning, and it's typical of Catriona Ward where you don't really know what's going on. You're getting pieces of a puzzle, and you originally start out with a brother and sister who escape an abusive situation, and they go in search of this place that kids are known to go to escape terror in their lives, escape bad situations. It used to be owned by an actor, and I have gotten further in the book, so I have seen it's multi-POV, and you see through several different people so far. There's even more people than who I just named. And I don't know exactly what's happening yet, but I know to have patience with Catriona Ward, because when you start to get towards the end, the pieces start clicking together. And usually with her books, you also end up really thinking about not just the story, but about things that happen in society, and different storylines mirror things that are going on in the world. So you end up really thinking about certain things. I am definitely a huge fan of Catriona Ward, and I am going to be doing an ARC review for this. Comes out February 24th. It has been pushed. It was supposed to come out at the end of this current year in 2025, but it got pushed to next year. I will definitely have an ARC review posted for you guys, so you can keep an eye out for that. That concludes my portion of the most anticipated. As usual with these, as much as we are doing them for you, I love seeing what Amanda puts on her list. Sometimes I learn new books too, which is one of the reasons why I love doing it. But I also love seeing when we overlap and do the same books. She has often said to me, some of them we overlap a lot, and she's like, should we really do that? But I enjoy watching us have a lot of the same books on our TBRs, and also gives me ideas of, you know, vlogs that we can do and stuff that we can come up with from the books that we overlap. Hopefully you guys also enjoy that and find new books that you want to read. And also tell us in the comments things that you didn't hear about that you either think we would love to hear, or just, you know, say that you want to read it, because I love seeing other book suggestions out there too. Thanks for watching through all of these books. We have a lot. I'm sure Amanda's going to have a lot as well. We're looking very much forward to 2026. I'm sure we're going to have some reading goals and recaps of 2025 and everything we've read and what we want to read in 2026. So keep an eye out for that. And until next time.